Hi, everybody. Welcome to GW Center for Integrative Medicine, a YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Kogan, co-host, Chief Medical Officer of the Center, and Associate Professor of Medicine at George Washington University. Today's topic is creatine for Alzheimer's disease. Those of you who followed this topic of Alzheimer's disease probably already heard about this study. It's been featured widely. Andrew Weil listed it recently on his channel on Facebook. It's of course, important topic. Creatine is a muscle supplement or muscle support supplement that, of course, been used for a long time for bodybuilding. However, in the last decade or so, there's been increasing amount of preclinical models showing quite a significant improvement in animal models of Alzheimer's disease. So this is, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you as usual. And gonna walk you through the study. So this was a short study, but before we actually go into the details of the study, what I want to show you is this is a very high quality study. It's done at a large medical center at University of Kansas. It's a very highly organized, well-conducted trial. It is a pilot, so it's uncontrolled. It's a single arm. It means that patients were not compared to placebo or even care as usual. So this is just the 20 patients were given 20 grams of creatine for 8 weeks, and the team followed multiple different things. So team followed MMSE, which is a test that is pretty standard for memory assessment. Team also followed several other parameters, including levels of p-tau 217 and number of other important measures. Now, because it's a pilot, they were not set to prove that creatine works for Alzheimer's, but they set to assess some really important issues. So if you look here on the right, you can see that just within 4 weeks, the level of creatine, this blue bar, went dramatically up in the brain. Now, why is this important? Well, you could arguably say, well, okay, we take creatine, but we know it works for muscles, but will it work for brain? Will it cross into the brain? Yes, it does. So this is the first proof of concept. The second proof of concept, it's very easy to take. The compliance was very high. There was no discontinuation. I think there's only one patient who, for some reason, wasn't really monitoring what patient was taken. But all in all, it was very well tolerated. I'm actually going to show you, I think it is important to discuss some of the potential changes. So this is the pre and post. So you can see on the left here in this baseline, this is where some measures were done. Everything was fine. Of course, you would expect that creatinine, which is the kidney function, would go up. So it did go up from 0.9 to 1.25 in 8 weeks. So it's a pretty significant increase. It's almost 30% increase. Now, why is this important? Back in the day, 15, 20 years ago, there was a significant concern. And when people start on creatine, kidneys bump up, and this was often said, oh, it's a safety problem, stop taking. Even I actually had this recommendation many years ago to some of my patients. I'd say, oh, if creatine goes up, stop. I'm no longer doing this. I acknowledge that creatine goes up in everybody, but it's actually not a problem. It just goes up and it stays up. It's not necessarily continuously getting worse. It just bumps up. And when you discontinue, it does go down. So what else happened here? Well, they did assess a lot of different things. There's this NIH toolbox battery, which is very specific for research only. This is not something that's used in clinical practice. What we use in clinical practice, less so, but in the past we used a lot, something called mini mental status examination, or MMSE. And as you can see, MMSE didn't really change, actually got slightly worse, but it wasn't statistically significant. But if you look at the NIH toolbox, there were a number of things that were very statistically significant. So total cognition got a little bit better. Fluid cognition got better. Flanker inhibitory control and attention got better. And then a couple other things like here, list sorting, working memory. Now, what does this mean? And for patients, does this represent something? Well, it's hard to say. Of course, in 8 weeks, it's very difficult to say, is this change something that's going to continue? Is this change simply because there's more energy to the brain, more production, and there's a short temporary improvement? Nobody knows. The point being is clearly it's an important result. I'm actually going to show you the kind of general conclusion. The conclusion is that, of course, um, even though it's a trial, it's basically a pilot trial, but it's a significant enough results that not just warrants additional testing in a longer studies, but potentially signifies that if somebody would like to start taking creatine at this dose, that it may be quite beneficial. Now, 20 grams is a lot. The typical starting dose, a lot of people out there and even bodybuilders will take 5 to 10. So 20 is double the dose. You did see that the safety was probably okay. They did mention that number of people had cramps. In my experience, when you go to such a dose, here's what happens. If you take a lot of creatine and you don't increase the exercise, the cramping is extremely common. I can't quite explain why when somebody would exercise, the cramping seems to get better. I have personally tried high dose like this on myself, and I will tell you, if I don't push aggressively for exercising, I get very strange feeling of soreness and increase in cramping, which cramping actually is not very common for me, even with a very long skiing or running. I don't generally cramp up, but with high dose creatine, I do if I don't exercise. So stay tuned. I'm sure that this group will try to get longer grants. If you are my patient and you want to talk about this, or our patient in Recode program, definitely talk to us. At this point, we're putting most patients on creatine, but not quite yet 20 grams. I'm yet to be a little bit more cautious. I recommend most of my patients for now 10 grams. I think we have to really wait for the longer trial with the dosing being different. Does the 20 gram would be better than 10? We need to do a dosing study in the long run to see. Now, also, creatine is very inexpensive. If you take 5 grams, it's probably going to cost you, less than $10 a month. Of course, if you take a lot more, like 20, the price will go up. So stay tuned for more. I'll make sure that the link to the study will be in the description. I'll put the link to our Recode program in the description. Quick announcement. We are waiting for our publication to finally get through. It's been submitted. So of course, as soon as it comes out, we will be featuring it here. Please do subscribe. It helps the channel, and we'll see you soon. Stay healthy. Stay well. Goodbye. Take care.